I am Dr. Swannie Jett, and I have a passion for public health for over 30 years. Now, I'm in a position to affect change. And these are the critical conversations about health in our community with the people who can help me make those changes. Good afternoon. Welcome to CEO of Live Talks. I'm your host, Dr. Swannie Jett. I have Mr. Guest here for part two. So you pretty much stepped out on faith. You didn't know where you were going or how you was going to land.
Right.
So faith kind of drove you.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's been my journey pretty much my whole life. Definitely my whole career.
Mm-hmm. So you leave Louisville 2000 and go to New York. Yeah. What made you take that leap of faith?
It's funny, Mick. So in 1998, I was in New York. So I met Wynton Marsalis in 1993. My son's name is Wynton. My son is actually named after the pianist that Wynton's named after. And so Wynton Kelly. So my name is Andre Chemo Stone Guest. My son's name is Wynton Kelly Stone Guest. And so Stone's my mother's maiden name. She gave me her maiden name. So I'm like a pre-hyphenated kid, even though I have my mother's last name, but it's one of my middle names. And so I met him. He was here for a concert at the Brown Theater, and at intermission they were playing at a pit because it was a dance. It was the Garth Fagan, Griot, New York, and his band was in the pit. So at intermission, I walked down, look into the pit, and called him. I said, "Hey, Wynton." He turned around. He was on his way back. He turned around. He's like, "Yeah." I asked him a question I knew the answer to, which was, "You're named after Wynton Kelly, right?" And so, he looked at me like, "How do you even know who Wynton Kelly is?" Right? That was his vibe. Right. I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, my son's name is Wynton Kelly. I got a son named Wynton." And he was like, kind of impressed by that and shocked by it to a certain extent. He said, "Yeah, man." He said, "Come back after the show." That's right. So after the show, everybody was down at the pit he was in there giving autographs and so forth. So he signed my program. And so while we were doing this, the interesting thing is that the sound guy was up doing his thing, and he was talking to my wife, Cheryl, who was, back in the theater, and he was like, "What are y'all?" He said, "So y'all the couple that got the little kid named Wynton Kelly." So at intermission, he had told everybody, that's his young brother in the crowd that has a kid named Wynton Kelly. So he said, we're going to go back to the Silbach, and get a little nightcap and get something to eat, come and hang with us. So we went back to the Silbach, and Wynton wasn't there. So this is David Robinson as his sound man, Sugar Rob. So we sitting around and we talking, maybe like 45 minutes later, Wynton comes in, he's back at the thing doing interviews, kissing babies, doing all the stuff he does. Mm-hmm. And so he comes in and he goes, "Yeah, you the cat with the kids." So we sit down, we start talking. And, I still to this day can't remember what he said, but after about 10 or 15 minutes, he said something that I vehemently disagreed with. And I remember saying to myself, I said, "Man, this is Wynton Marsalis. I just met this brother. Am I going to say something?"
Right.
Then I said, "Yeah, I can't let him get away with that." So I looked at him and I said, "Man, I know you Wynton Marsalis. I know we just met, man, but that's some of the dumbest stuff I ever heard anybody say." And then I went after him.
Right.
And we just argued for like a half an hour, just went at each other, right? And so
what did he say?
and he said to me afterwards, he said, "Man, I like you, man." And he said, "Here's my number, man. Let's keep in contact."
Right.
So, but he played ball too. So anytime he was within a 200-mile radius of the city, I would go hang out with him. Okay. We'd go play ball and hang out. And then I asked him, I just was bold with it. I was like, "Hey, man, why don't you come do a benefit for us at the Lincoln Foundation?" And he says, "All right, I'll do it." I asked him probably in 94. And then one day, like 18 months later, I got a call from his manager. "Here's the date." I mean, I mentioned it to him once.
Right.
18 months later, he came, boom, I came in, we raised a lot of money for that. Then in like 1998, I was in Nashville because they were playing. And they had just been awarded to be the cultural component of what is now the Time Warner Center in New York, which is where the new facility is, which is where the House of Swing is. And they had just been awarded by Mayor Koch that no, was it called? It was Giuliani, with Giuliani, to say the developer had to, in order to get the Coliseum was there, in order to get that land, they had to build a sort of unit inside of a condominium inside of that and deed it to a cultural institution of his choosing for $1. And Giuliani, because of Stanley Crouch, got Jazz and Lincoln Center to be that institution. So he was riding the high of that, but it was a lot of money that had to be raised. So I saw him. He's like, "Yeah, man, we just got the House of Swing's going to be in Columbus Circle." But he's like, "Man, you got to come to New York, man. You got to come to New York, man. You got to come be a part of what we're doing." And I was like, "Man, you don't even know what I do for real." I was like, I need to be in New York, right?" He's like, "Man, I don't care." He said, "Let me tell you what I do know about you." He said, "I know you're very smart. I know you love this music.
Right.
That all that matters." He said,
Right.
"You'll figure it out. You're a brother. We're going to do this, right?" I was like, "Yeah, whatever." So fast forward a year later, I was in New York celebrating one of my best friend's 30th birthday. And Winton, from what I understood, wasn't in town because I called him and pick up. So I called his assistant, and I ended up getting tickets to a show. It was a Duke in Small Doses. They were celebrating the centennial of Duke Ellington. So I went to this show. Diane Reeves, Nicholas Payton, they did this show at Alice Tully Hall. And after the show, me and my boy, we were about to head back to the hotel. And I'm not lying. This is not hyperbole. I'm not lying about this. This really happened. I literally bumped into him. Like, it's a nickname, Skane. I was like, "Oh, Skane, what's up, man? I called you. What you said, man, what you doing here?" I said, "Man," he said, "Where you?" I said, "I just came from the show." He said, "What you doing?" I said, "Man, I'm just telling. What you doing right now?" I said, "I ain't doing nothing." He said, "Come on, let's go." So he took me up to the Kaplan Penthouse. They were having a reception for the show and had all this soul food. It was real soulful, right? So we went up, and he went. So he brought me and he introduced me to the chairman of the board. His brother. He looked like a white guy, right? I thought he was white, right? But he was a brother, right? And he had just
That's how we passed back in the day.
he had just had back surgery. So he had this cane he was walking on. So Winton comes up to him. He's like, "Hey, Gordon, I want you to meet my man Dre. Bad MF. This dude's bad. We need to hire him." That's what he says to him, right? And so Gordon, like, he's real cantankerous today. He got a bad back. He's like, "Man, I ain't got time to talk to nobody, man." He just completely dismisses,
Right.
So we go into the party. The executive director at the time walks up to him. "Hey, Rob, let me introduce you to somebody. It's my man Dre. Bad MF. He's a bad dude, man. We gotta have him here. We gotta hire him." And Rob's like, yeah, whatever. So he takes me around, introduced me to a few other folks. 10 minutes later, he says, "Hey, man, I gotta go, man. Stay, have a good time, whatever." So I don't know anybody, right? So I'm just walking around. So I eventually go to the bathroom, and Gordon, the chairman of the board, he's walking on his cane. So he walks up to me and he goes, "Hey," he says, "when Wynton Marsalis gives somebody that level of high praise, I pay attention. Tell me a story." So I told him, what I did, whatever. He gave me his card. He said, this is 1999, right? So it's still fax machine action.
Right.
So he's like, so he gives me his card. He says, "Fax me your resume." So I faxed him my resume, and man, like, this was in November, December '99. So by March, April of 2000, they had offered me a job. They flew me up, offered me a gig. And, my wife and I, we lived in Jersey, though. We moved to Jersey City initially with a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Now Louisville to New York, that was a culture shock.
Yes and no. I mean, I was just riding. It was for my wife, for sure. It was absolutely a culture shock for her.
Yeah.
But me, man, I'm in the city. I'm like a kid in the playground, man.
Right.
I'm just having a great time. But it was a culture shock. But we moved there. Well, I moved in like April of 2000. She didn't move until June because the kids were still in school.
Mm-hmm.
So you forget June of 2000, then a little more than a year and change later, 9/11 happens.
That's
And
true.
we lived right down on the water in Jersey City, so you could see.
You could see the Twin
Yeah,
Towers
you
from
could see
there.
it. My wife saw them collapse.
Yeah, New Jersey
Yeah.
Turnpike. I was there the day before.
Yeah. And
Day
so,
before.
yeah, it was it was a lot for her. I mean, you know, she's from Louisville. She's from the West End. She called us, you know, a self-described country girl. She's walking down the street in New York and Jersey, speaking to everybody. How you doing? She's like, they ain't
Can't
gonna
do
beat.
that.
She said they ain't beating it out of me. I'm gonna speak to everybody. She said they ain't beating it out of me. So, but yeah, but it was, you know, but I think it was the best thing in the world for our kids. You know, and because they were able to see, you know, see a different side of. They were all born here, of course, but we moved around a little bit. But I think that experience for them has helped shape them. Like my son lives in Lisbon right now. My son had been born and raised in Louisville. He would not be living in Lisbon right now.
Right.
Hello, we value your feedback at Park Duval Community Health Centers. Please take a moment to complete our brief survey and help us continue to improve our services. Thank you for your time.
We are here in the community. We partner with our community health workers to run vaccination clinics throughout the city of Louisville, specifically downtown in the West End. The importance of events like these is that a lot of people have transportation issues, so we are able to come out into the community and get people the vaccinations that they need.
So it's really important to have these type of events in the community because, you know, as we know, when COVID and flu season comes around, our underserved communities are hit the hardest. So if we can bring any vaccines or anything that they need, glucose testing, it's important to meet people where they're at.
At Park Duval, we care about the community. We do events like this monthly because we are the community and we love to give back to the community.
Be sure to visit our website for more of our upcoming community outreach events.
For more information, visit us online at pdchc.org.
How are you liking the show? Scan the QR code. Get information about the resources and services provided by Park Duval online at pdchc.org today. Now back to Dr. Jett.
So that exposure helped you along the way. But talk about your experiences in New York.
Oh yeah, man. But you know, one thing I love about New York is New York don't care about nobody but itself, right? And so, you know, you can get into, you know, I found this in other cities besides a place like New York. You know, you try to, you know, jockey for position and all those other kind of things. In New York, it truly is, to a certain extent, a meritocracy. You can do it, you get a chance to do it. You know, and it's not a matter of where you're from, what people you know, whatever. If you get an opportunity to get into a situation, if you can do it, you're going to get an opportunity to take it to the next level or what have you. But it's a dog-eat-dog world, right? So if you want that meritocracy, you're going to get the smoke to come along with it too, because there's 10 other people, 100 other people behind you trying to do it
And
too.
everybody else got an idea, and everybody else has a motive.
Yeah. But just being in the city, man, it's like dog years, man. Like 1 year in New York is like 7 years here. I'm dead serious about that. Just the pace.
Say that again so people can understand.
One year in New York is like 7 years here, man, and just the pace, like what you deal with on a daily basis,
it's a fast
it's
learning
fast,
curve.
yeah. And you, like you said, you don't, you'll get ran over. I mean, you get literally ran over walking down the street. You better walk with some.
They blow the horn all the time.
Yeah.
All the cabs, everybody blows the horn.
Yeah.
That used to irritate me in New York.
But yeah, I mean, just being there, like the beauty of it all is like being, at Jazz and Lincoln Center and Albert Murray, like the scholar Albert Murray, who was contemporary of Ralph Ellison, was on our board. I had a chance to go sit at this man's feet and learn from him, and he was in his 80s, right? hanging out with Winton, he's like my big brother, with Stanley Crouch, just meeting all the folks on the scene, the jazz scene, making lifelong friendships. It's like I'm pinching myself all the time. I was like, man, am I in the middle of all of this, right?
I know one of Winton's good friends.
Who's that?
Actually lives in Orlando, named Dennis. Used to play with him.
Dennis Jeter? You know Jeter?
He's a frat brother.
Oh, yeah. Jeter, yeah, I know
He's
Jeter.
a frat brother, so we smoke cigars all the time.
I didn't know Jeter was in Florida now. He was in Pennsylvania.
He moved around.
Yeah.
Small world.
Yeah, I know Jeter. Jeter singing, playing the trumpet. Is he still singing?
Yep.
And I know he was doing a lot of stuff in Europe. I know he was doing some tours.
He's doing some stuff. So I understand the fast pace because I grew up in Chicago.
Yeah.
So it's like dog years.
Yeah.
But what success did you have?
Man, when I got to Jazz and Lincoln Center, we were in the basement of Alice Tully Hall. Like my first assignment. When I moved there, I was hired to be the director of administration. So we were moving from the basement. There was like 15 of us.
Okay.
Of Alice Tully Hall, which was on Lincoln Center campus. We had gotten 3 floors of office space in this building on 60th Street, right across the street from the site where the building was going to be built. Okay. Right. So no joke, man. Day one, Rob, the executive director, gave me a folder. It was like, we moving, you doing it. I had we had to get phones. I was like, all this stuff. Everybody that got it was working on it before. Just dropped it on my lap.
Oh wow.
I had to figure out how to get 15 people moved into this new building to make sure all of the plans and everything. I mean, I was, trial by fire. And so, we, then I guess less than 3 months after I'd been there, I ended up getting promoted to be the chief financial officer too. So I was the director of administration and finance. So we went through a lot of turmoil because the guy who hired me, the executive director, ended up being let go. Then they brought another guy in who actually was the dean of music at Boston University. They brought him in. He didn't work out. And so we were in the middle of raising all this money, $200 million. And we just couldn't have that kind of a turnover. Right. So they decided that they would bring somebody off the board, a retired executive off the board, to be a president, basically save the money. He'd do it for $1 a year. And it just so happens that this guy was the chair of the finance committee, and so I work with him all the time. Right. He's a brother. And so he gave me the chance of a lifetime, because he was like, look, he says, I know you love the music. I know you know a lot about the music. I know you're over here running the admin side. He says, but you want to go run the other side, don't you? I was like, yeah. He says, I'm going to cut a deal with you. He says, you do the bridge financing, get the loan for the bridge financing so we can finish off what we need to finish off. And then you train your controller to make sure that he can take over your role. Mm-hmm. And then I'll let you go run the other side of the business. And he said, but there's one catch that goes along with that. I was like, what was that? He said, Winton, is your problem. If you spend too much money, I'm going to come get you, not him. I said, okay, cool. Bet.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I closed that bridge loan, got it done, went to run the other side of the business. And, at that point, I was responsible for, producing all the concerts in New York, all around the world. At one point in time, I had run every department in the organization except for public relations and development and education. Those are the only 3. But every other, business affairs, marketing, concert operations, admin, finance, all other stuff. In the 2 roles that I had, because I in essence had run both sides.
So you are pretty smart.
Well, math and science to get you a long way.
Get you a long way in this world. So, a lot of people don't know what a comptroller is. Mm. So explain that terminology. What exactly do you do?
Well, I wasn't a comptroller. It was my but the comptroller. Yeah. What a comptroller is basically what people would call the bookkeeper now. It's the accountant that does all of the. Because I'm not an accountant.
Right.
But I am a chief financial officer. So what I take the documents that the comptroller prepares, analyze them, and make decisions.
Right.
Right. And so, I can do the sensitivity analysis on them and say, hey, this doesn't fit over here. What's going on over here? So in essence, their comptroller is working with the system to prepare the financial statements that the chief financial officer then will analyze and make decisions based upon and talk to the board about.
Yeah. Yeah, and some people use them in terms of controlling the money.
Yes, and yes, and they absolutely that too in terms
that's
of
the stopgap. Before anything gets paid, I need you.
Well, yeah, that's the other part, right? Is that I didn't, as the chief financial officer, I just signed the checks.
Right.
I did not decide what was going to pay and what didn't get paid.
Right.
Before it came to me, it was like,
was
you got to
already
go.
done deal.
Yeah,
You
you
just
got to
signed
go.
it.
And I usually wasn't signing checks unless it was over like $10,000 and you needed 2 signatures. So,
Right.
but I was responsible for all of the, all of the processes and the procedures that and the rules that govern what got paid and what didn't get paid. Sort of here, give to them, and then the comptroller executed that. But what's funny was, so the comptroller became the CFO, and when I went to run the other side of the business, he used to come and sit in my office all the time. He said, man, why are you trying to break the rules that you put in place, right? He said, you're a big offender, right? I said, well, I know how to circumvent the rules,
Right.
but he wouldn't let me do them. So he's like, no, we're not doing
We're
this,
not
right?
doing it.
You wouldn't
this
allow
way.
yourself to do this,
Right,
so why are you
right.
trying to do this to me, right?
That was Winton. that was Winton coming through the door. Hello, I'm Dr. Swannie Jett. Please make sure you visit one of our 5 locations, not only in Louisville, but outside of Louisville and surrounding areas. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sierra Clark, and I'm the Chronic Disease Manager at Park Duval Community Health Center. Ever since I started at Park Duval over 9 years ago, I have been committed to helping patients live healthier lifestyles. I am currently serving patients in the Chronic Care Management Program, or CCM program. My team and I help patients manage their chronic conditions such as obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. In this CCM program, you will receive several benefits to help you manage your health. We offer monthly telephone calls to check in with your progress and to assist you with any concerns, assistance with scheduling your healthcare appointments, and assistance with filling your prescriptions in a timely and convenient manner. We also offer many resources to help you with the barriers you may face with eating healthy, being physically active, or monitoring your conditions at home. For more information, visit us online at pdchc.org or visit one of our health centers.
Hello, I'm Dr. Swannie Jett, CEO for Park Duval Community Health Centers. We conduct WIC, nutrition, and open enrollment for healthcare. So this is a one-stop shop facility for everybody in the community. So what would you say was your biggest success while you was in New York?
Biggest success in New York.
What would you hold your hat on? Because you had to sell something to come back to Louisville.
Well, my biggest success, if I really think about my greatest memory, is like to be, when I walked in there, and this isn't, I wouldn't call this my big, what I did per se, but I was a part of this.
You influenced it. Let's say you influenced
Well, I was, when I walked in, it was 15 people moving out of a basement into
Right.
office space, and there was a hole in the ground across the street. Then you fast forward 4 years later when we had the grand opening. The grand opening, like to see this building, all of the work, like the grand opening, what happened in that building that day and for the next, 3 seasons was my handiwork working with, but I was responsible for it. It was Winton's vision, but I was responsible for executing. So if a concert got played or somebody got booked or whatever it was all around the world, I did that for 4 seasons there. Right. But the thing that, and then, I had a big hand in getting the thing, being a part of getting it built and all the other things, doing my part as a part of a team. But one of the things that I always remember is the night in 2004, in the fall of 2004, the grand opening night. So Winton we had 3 venues. We had the Rose Hall, which was the large concert hall. Then we had what was at the time called the Allen Room, which was like a Greek amphitheater. It was a smaller theater. And then we had Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola. So the way that the evening was set up was that Winton was going to play in each one of those venues, but it was staggered for the time. So I was the one that needed to make sure that he got from one space to the next.
Okay.
So by the time but all three of those venues were activated at the same time. So something was going on in all three of them, once the grand opening started. So when he finished playing in one and we'd walk to the other one, there was no one in the hallway because everybody was already settled.
Okay.
So he and I walked through the halls. It was just the two of us. And we were just reflecting on, wow, man, this has actually happened. And of course, he'd been involved with it much longer than me and a lot more blood, sweat, and tears. But to be a part of that with him at that moment, like I'll always cherish that time that we had, because all in all, it was probably, we spent about 45 minutes together, just the two of us, waiting in the wings until he got called, talking. And I talk to him about that all the time. Like that to me is like the encapsulation of what I would say my biggest accomplishment there professionally was seeing and being a part of something that went from, small, even though a lot of work had gone into the place by the time I'd gotten there, but being one of the people that helped put that together.
Well, it was his vision, but there's somebody that has to do all the details. Right. And so you were very instrumental in making it come to fruition.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people have big vision, but they don't know, they can't follow through.
Well, and one of the reasons I think that he and I work together, I mean, he's like one of my best friends in the world. He's like a big brother. I talk to him all the time. But one of the things that made it so that we worked together well, and it wasn't always pretty, is how we met. I stood up to him. Right. I was never a yes man for him. Right. And I would always tell him what I felt the truth was.
And sometimes people need that.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they don't want to ruffle the feathers of. Right. But there have been times, Wynton and I almost came to blows 3 times. We laugh about it now, but it's like brothers, right? You fight with your brothers. Right, like, look, man, we can go right now. Right. I've said that too. Like, huh? What? Yeah, we've had some tense moments. Right. But if you're going to get to that level, right? Mm-hmm. You don't get there by being.
You need some tension. You need a little tension.
Yeah, you got to. Then you really understand what you're standing for, right? If you're gonna fight for this, then I understand it's important to you. But if you ain't gonna fight for it, then it might not make sense. I'm telling you why it doesn't make sense, but you just want me to do it because you want me to do it. No, we're gonna have to figure this out. Right.